At Accenture, we partner with the world's largest cloud providers to help organizations adopt cloud and unlock that hidden potential in their business. So, who's using the cloud? What benefits does it bring? Where do we start? To look at these questions, I'm delighted to be joined by Aisling Curtis, Commercial Director, and Frank O'Donnell, Public Sector Lead from our partners, Microsoft. You're both very welcome. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Donal.
This is a top agenda point for many of our clients. I suppose, Frank, maybe starting with you, what are the factors that are driving cloud at the moment?
Well, Donal, I think when we look at cloud now over the last 18 months or 2 years, it's probably been unprecedented in terms of the adoption of cloud and the focus on cloud and the conversations we're having with customers around this. And there are probably two main factors driving that. I suppose COVID initially. We've seen the need for rapid innovation in terms of the response to COVID. So we've seen that right across the public sector, particularly in healthcare, for example. And I recall in healthcare in particular, we went from a sketch on a board to a solution in the hands of users within just about a 2-week period, just over 2 weeks. And that's to deal with contact tracing, deal with capturing cases, etc. And we see the same then across social protection, where we see the need to deliver payments, validate people's identity, etc., when you couldn't bring them into locations around the country. We've seen education institutions pivot to an online model. So across that spectrum of public sector customers, there was an imperative that created by COVID, but then resolved through the use of cloud and the use of our partner network to support those customers. So phenomenal innovation actually over a very short period of time.
I think those are wonderful examples to describe, I suppose, the speed and agility that cloud brings. And maybe to kind of probe perhaps part of that, Frank, you know, why do you think cloud was the go-to platform for those clients when they looked at the problems they needed to face?
Well, quite simply, Donal, the imperative was there for speed. And what you get in terms of adopting a hyperscale provider like Microsoft, all of the security, the identity, the integration, the interoperability exists within the platform. That allows you then to innovate within particular areas and deliver those solutions to customers quite quickly. So it's really speed. It's almost you've got some steps already taken that you can then build on quite quickly to get a solution into the market, whether that be in a public sector or even across commercial enterprises.
And I think you've touched on many of the key characteristics that would describe cloud, like the ease of integration, the scalability, the speed to deliver. But I suppose maybe, Aisling, to then bring those points to you to say, do we all have a shared understanding of what we mean by cloud? And has that really changed now and evolved if we think about the examples that Frank has just talked about and the clients that you work with every day?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because actually when you boil it down, the difference in using cloud as an enabler is that you don't have to make the capital investment, and in fact, the ongoing capital investment that is required. You can use our hyperscale, you can get the speed, you can get the agility, you can get the speed of deployment. Frank talks about like a 2-week from a design to actually we're implementing. These are the benefits that you would get from cloud. And if you keep it simple, it is all about just starting now. Keep it small.
It's really interesting to hear about all the conversations we're having with clients at the moment around cloud and how that has really shifted. And I think this transformation word gets used a lot, but never has it been so true than in the context of cloud and the impact it can have. And to maybe start with you about that, Aisling, I think it's really important that we talk about this is far broader than cost reduction, because that, you know, this has all changed. It's changed everything. And you're seeing that in the projects that we work on together, but also the clients you talk with.
So I think it's really easy to get into a conversation where you're theoretically talking about transformation. Like, what does that mean? What we're really trying to do is make sure that we're creating value, that we're providing a better way to market or improving products, creating products, and giving a competitive advantage. And it's not just about putting technology into the organisation. You also have to take into account the culture and how that's adopting. and really what you're trying to actually get out of the transformation. So a brilliant example is Kinetic. It's a brand and marketing company. Previously, they would have put, you'd know them from doing billboards around Ireland. But billboards, you know, it's quite hard, right? You know, you have brands who want to advertise, but they want information about whether it's working. They want to know what they're spending is getting a return on investment. When you actually use AI to transform that into digital screens, you're able to get real-time information, real-time data back to the brands so that they can have a sense whether people are engaged with these advertisements or not, and what needs to change. And so from a sales point of view, they can increase their sales by 25 to 30% just by digitizing. And from Kinetic's point of view, are really straightforward changes that they need to make. Again, it's about bringing the team along and actually helping them transform. But they're actually, once they get started, it's a really big payoff in terms of the transformation. So you're changing the business model and you're getting that impact for your employees because they can spend more time on more value-add opportunities rather than more admin activities.
I think that's a great point around the impact. You know, it impacts the talent model, it impacts the operating model, and all in a positive way. It allows you to distribute people around different parts of the organisation and do things differently. And maybe the same question to you, Frank, but in a different world perhaps. You know, this idea of that long-lasting impact and allowing any organisation, including in public sector, to build on the foundations of perhaps what might have been initially a technology project, but it now needs to unlock so much more.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think as Aisling was pointing out, it is more than a technology conversation. When you talk about transformation, you're talking about all aspects of business process, about culture, about change, etc. So we are definitely in that conversation with our customers, and we're talking about how they can affect that kind of change. And for a lot of stakeholders in this, beyond the IT for sure, it's a conversation about outcomes. So what changes can we make that delivers better outcomes to citizens, whether that's better outcomes to patients in healthcare or to students, for example. And a good example in terms of that rapid transformation when UCC were faced with challenges under the pandemic, over a weekend they effectively translated their learning and teaching and learning delivery onto Teams. So creating something out of that wasn't possible before, out of the use of the cloud platform, and still delivering learning outcomes, you know, in a distanced environment. So we see that then across many different factors of the public sector. New services being delivered more efficiently to the citizens.
I think listening to you both, there's a word that jumps to mind, which is this word transparency. The fact that all these new services are being built in the cloud gives a really specific line of sight for that business into the impact it's having. So to your point, both of you have mentioned outcomes and how important those are. You know, because you're using cloud services, because they're built to have that granular access of why am I doing this, what impact is it having, how much of it am I using, I only pay for what I use.
Yeah.
It lends itself really well to that narrative around a direct correlation between why I'm doing it and the outcome it's having, the impact it's having on the customers that are using it.
I think that's what I enjoy so much about working together as well on that process. When you're actually working through it, you can be very clear with the customer about what type of outcome they're trying to get for their business. You know, whether it is something around their products, if it's something to do around their operations, employees, how they serve their customers, or in organisations across the public sector, how they're serving citizens.
I think that's a really good way to go to then get into, I guess, that process of engagement and those interactions we have with our clients and what clients themselves should be thinking about when they embark on their cloud journey. But I suppose to just then talk to you a little bit about the types of engagements you're having with clients when you're defining what cloud is and explaining what cloud is. Are you seeing that pointing at different parts of the businesses now that previously was it always with IT and now it's with HR and it's with finance, and they're all interested to understand.
Yeah, it's a board level discussion straight away. What we find is that most cases it is around getting the strategy agreed at board level, and also seeing an element of role modelling and adoption of the technology, but also keeping into account the change management that is required across the full organisation. So you will hear CFOs, operations directors, HR, it is a topic on a daily basis, because actually it's about the growth of the business, it's about the transformation of the business, and it's ultimately about bringing everybody with you on the journey. You're enabling everyone in the organisation.
I think, Donal, there's a piece in addition to that we've seen, which is around data.
Yeah.
So what we've seen in the last number of years is the imperative for data to support decision making, let's say at government level in public sector, but also obviously at board level in commercial businesses. And the need to get at that data is driving a lot of the cloud solutions that we're seeing organizations adopt. And we've seen it, for example, the COVID example is where ministers or senior health officials or others in government need that data in real time because they're making difficult decisions about what to do on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. And that then has raised their level of awareness of how cloud can deliver those solutions. And now it's a different conversation. Now it's very much a board-level conversation. So it's definitely a different engagement than what it might have been 2 or 3 years ago.
I think you both bring up a really important point, which is the understanding of cloud is now not in any one part of the business, but it's an imperative for everybody to understand what cloud is. And I think there's nothing better than a real example that you've just described, where an individual is seeing the outcome of the cloud project in the data they're seeing in front of them. But I think, what are you guys doing? And we work a lot together, by the way, I guess, in this, is engaging with clients early to kind of increase that cloud fluency, that cloud education, but clearly having the skills inside the organisation to sustain that is really important. So we react, we do things, we build projects. How do we embed within those businesses that longevity? And maybe follow on from your point, Frank, like what can we do, what can organisations do to kind of really ensure that, I guess?
I mean, you've touched on skills, right? And that's a very big element of this. And to be honest, you know, when we have conversations with some organisations that are skilled in other technologies, then it's quite a transition. And there's some fear of that change. There's some fear that maybe those roles might not exist in older technologies in the future. But then the opportunity is really to reskill. The opportunity is to grasp this, and we provide a significant amount of support for organizations in terms of skilling right across the spectrum of technologies and cloud technologies, and we fund and we support that for organizations. And then that is required for that longevity, because the customers we have need to be able to adopt that technology and work with that technology themselves, and not rely on yourselves or ourselves. You know, long term, it's okay for us to work with them in the early stages, but they essentially must fly alone at some stage to drive that innovation within the organization.
And that's the beauty, actually, of working together so closely in partnership, is that we're doing it as early in the process as we can, so that we're actually talking about what is the real capability in your organisation, what do you need? And in most instances, it's very different across all sorts of organisations, even similar sizes, similar tech investment, but we're not talking about removing all of the legacy situation. We're actually looking at making sure that it fits for you, customising what you need going forward, and skilling is part of that plan.
I think that point you make around the starting point and it being very tailored to the business is a really important one, because of course it's all about making choices, and it's all about empowering the organisation to understand how to navigate the cloud. And that's one of the areas, I guess, we'd like to think we work really well together with our clients, is helping them navigate those decisions. But one thing that strikes me when I listen to both of you is that there's a part about implementing the cloud and whatever choices the organisation makes, but there's the impact it has on the employees. Something I'd love to talk to you about, Aisling, which is really around, if I'm sitting in an enterprise today and I'm in a certain type of role, what impact is adopting cloud going to have on me as an employee, as a member of the team?
I think what we see, if you take it even digital cultures with cloud, what we see is a greater agility to the market. People can, from an organisation point of view, you can compete in a much more agile way. For your employees, you see 3 times the amount of engagement, you see 4 times the amount of innovation, and you also will see an employee empowerment. People are able to make decisions in a more agile environment.
That decision making is a really, we hear that a lot, where we adopt data in the cloud, it's going to empower better decision making. So if I'm as an employee and I'm using some of the digital workplace services, for example, complemented by some fantastic cloud services that the entire business has adopted, how is it actually giving me the ability to contribute to that? Is it giving me a different experience?
Yeah, so there's some great examples, like for instance, Fáilte Ireland, who had designed a strategy in partnership where they wanted to transform the organisation and to reduce the amount of use of paper, speed up a lot of their processes from an employee point of view, really actually make the employee experience so much better because you're able to work on much greater add value activities. And so that's a brilliant example by using very low code, really our Power Platform, really low code Power Apps, and a very minimum amount of tech investment or even process changes can accelerate the business transformation, but also the employee experience as well.
I love that idea around, process optimization and thinking about how the integration across the various cloud services can really allow you to optimize how the business is structured. But I suppose, Frank, there's been loads of examples that you and I have worked on together, especially in your area where, there are many organizations now adopting cloud for that very reason. They're both looking at it from a pure infrastructure point of view, but really focused on productivity and employee experience and all those things in one 360-degree kind of picture.
Yeah, and I think that means that you need to have that all-up conversation early on in that cloud journey. It's not a technology conversation, it's a change conversation. It's a conversation about how it will impact employees, how they will adopt over a period of time. And I think you mentioned something a while back about different organizations being in different places. And they absolutely are. So the starting point is not the same in any organization. And I suppose the beauty of the cloud is that you can adopt it at your pace, and you can grow with the cloud as part of that journey across the organization and that change. And that's where the partnership, I think, is really important, because people like Accenture bring skills in the strategy and the planning and the visioning around this alongside ourselves with the technology, but also deep technology skills. And our customers are looking for that. They're not just seeking to talk to Microsoft about some software, some licensing. They're seeking to have a broader conversation about the journey they want to go on as an organization. So that partnership's really important, and our customers are driving that partnership as much as, of course, we get on well together and work well together, but our customers are asking for that that coming together of organizations to support them.
I think that's a really great place to go in terms of then the process, because I know lots of organizations look at the cloud and they're looking at it as a massive change, transformation type of experience. And of course, it can be those things, but you can do it a piece at a time.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we work on a lot together is that process of engagement and explaining to clients the impact it can have on their business. And I suppose one of the key topics that's coming up for all of us at the moment is the topic of sustainability and how those businesses can become more sustainable businesses. And it is across sector. I mean, maybe to go to you on that point, Aisling, there's a few threads there for Microsoft to talk about both the impact on the client, but of course your footprint in Ireland and your and across the globe.
It's a huge opportunity for all of us from a sustainability point of view, and we're working daily with customers who are trying to grapple with actually how do I improve my sustainability agenda. And again, you see that as a board topic as well.
Yeah, and I think there's by taking advantage of the cloud, there's some reduction in terms of your own use of technology, often suboptimal, not as efficient, let's say, as using a hyperscale cloud provider. So in terms of your carbon footprint even, you can improve your carbon footprint by adopting cloud over your on-premise infrastructure. So, and that's something we're working through. We actually do assessments with, and I know with yourselves, we do assessments with customers to understand what that offset might be and what that benefit might be from a sustainability perspective. So it's very much front and center with all our organizations in terms of, a board level agenda.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is the conversations that we're all getting into now around actually, yes, you can go to the cloud, but it's something that you must continue to do. You must continue to invest in. You have to optimize your spend. There are capabilities within your organization actually to help you manage that cloud, including sustainability, because of course, as we all know, moving the workloads to the cloud is the first part. Optimizing them while they're there gets you a huge amount of benefit, both in speed, efficiency, and most importantly in sustainability. I think that's a conversation we're all having.
And I think another aspect of it is the security benefit it gives us, right? If you take into account the amount of investment that we're going to do in cybersecurity alone, 25 billion over the next 5 years, why would you put that on your business to be trying to keep up with that, the level of investment that's required? Whereas when you're actually using cloud, not just to enable your business, but also to keep it more secure.
One of the things that we've seen in public sector, in particular around security, is I'd say go back 2 or 3 years ago, and security was a consideration almost not to go to cloud. It's still concerned. So I think in this whole journey, actually, we're still in a process of education. And indeed, we're all learning because the capabilities of the cloud are increasing at a speed that's very difficult to keep up with, right? So we're going to be continuing that education. But that discussion about security, which was maybe a little bit of a blocker, is now becoming a reason. If you think of the cyber incident, for example, the unfortunate one with the HSE, the largest one in the history of the state, I think, then the systems that remained intact and functional were based on cloud technology, right? So things like the vaccine management, the contact tracing. So there are lessons within all of that, and indeed we're having conversations around all of that, as you know, with different customers about what their security posture is and how they might improve that security posture. But cloud is now seen as a benefit to that security posture alongside their own on-premise infrastructure. And one thing that we are also seeing, I suppose, to be clear about, I think we mentioned, is not a binary thing, and many of our customers have made some of those capital investments, and they still want to leverage that capital investment. So there's a transition. It's not all cloud or all on-premise. It's a hybrid approach, and for different organizations, those sort of ratios will vary, and that'll change over time.
I think it's a great point that you make around adopting cloud is about complementing the investments you've already made and selecting from a menu of products and services that you get to lay together and set in a set of building blocks to kind of just unlock all of that potential that you talk about. And I think that's really important. But I suppose it's really interesting to hear that the security conversation, of course, as we've seen ourselves, has flipped to now, is there more threat detection available in the cloud than I can do myself? And I suppose it leads me to think very specifically about, well, what does the future hold? You know, all these businesses are reimagining what they're going to be like. And from a Microsoft perspective and thinking about the cloud, what do we, and maybe to you, Frank, what do we need to now start thinking about from an organizational point of view?
There are so many things to discuss in this. I suppose the big one for me is, maintaining that level of innovation that we've seen without a crisis. Okay, so a crisis creates certain conditions, but in many ways, our citizens expect more. So our citizens expect better services. They expect better services, whether that be in health or education or central government, whatever it may be. And we need to drive innovation at a pace that's going to meet those needs. So that's a big thing for us. And there's no doubt that the conversations are more ambitious now. Our customers they have more confidence. So they're looking now at a more ambitious agenda over a 3 or a 5 year period. They're looking for partnership over that period. Back to a point, they don't want to just buy software. They want a partnership. They want to be joined with companies like us and yourselves over a period of time. So it's a really exciting time. If we can now leverage the innovation that we've seen and see how we can replicate that within what we hope will be a more normal environment post-COVID.
I think that's a wonderful way to think about what the next step is. And in your area, Aisling, I suppose, the organisation, everyone gets to skip a step, I guess,
yeah,
in Ireland and start adopting these services at scale.
Absolutely. So like there's going to be lots of opportunity to speed things up, let's say, whether people are using artificial intelligence, if they're going to be using quantum computing to accelerate because it'll be much higher speeds. But actually what I think we will see that will be ever changing is going to be the adoption more of the hybrid workplace. So I think a lot of people are going to be thinking that it's going to go back to the way it was. It's not. You only have to look at the conversations around talent attraction, talent retention. You know, people are considering whether they're going to be able to work in a hybrid environment going forward. That's a decision about whether they're going to look at moving. And it's also a decision whether they're going to look at staying in organisations. So having the mindset and the future thinking around what that hybrid working, cloud is going to enable that. And the quicker people adopt that and organisations adopt that, it'll give them the agility versus their competitors. And in reality, in a very competitive market on talent, that's going to be important.
Well, I think what we can all take from this conversation is there's been some wonderful progress made by Irish organisations delivering real value to customers like ourselves, both in public and private sector. But there's also a massive opportunity to do more. And I'm really excited about the year ahead and the years to come where we can help all of our clients adopt this wonderful technology. Thank you, Aisling, and you, Frank, for all your insights today. I think we've heard some wonderful stories about how businesses in Ireland are adopting cloud. And I think the key message is there's great opportunities for organisations to adopt cloud, build new products and services, and really deliver those innovative solutions for their employees and their customers. And to all of you, thank you for watching the Accenture Cloud video series, and I really look forward to seeing you all very soon.